42 million Americans are about to lose their food aid. That's not a worst-case scenario. That's a countdown clock hitting zero. The U.S. government is shut down, and as of this week, the primary victims aren't just furloughed workers, but millions of kids, seniors, and working families relying on food stamps. This is the story of two press conferences, two entirely different realities, and one national crisis. In the Democrats' corner, the message is simple. This is a manufactured crisis. They accuse President Trump of being heartless and weaponizing food by deliberately refusing to release $5.5 billion in existing emergency SNAP funds.
What brings us here today in an absolutely unbelievable way. President Trump is refusing to release the $5 billion in emergency funding for SNAP that helps feed 16 million kids, and that is a direct violation of the law. He is to let millions and millions of children and their parents and grandchildren go hungry.
The argument? The law mandates the president use this contingency fund, and previous administrations did so during shutdowns. But this time, Democrats claim the president is making a deliberate choice to hold food aid hostage to gain leverage in a broader fight.
This Trump shutdown to inflict unnecessary pain on the American people. We've seen this already in the context of federal employees, where they've been illegally firing federal employees. Just within the last 48 hours, a federal judge said that they were imposing political retribution on federal employees. We know what Russ Vought told the country he wanted to do. He said he wanted to impose trauma on federal employees. And now what they're doing is using these cuts to food nutrition programs to impose trauma on all of the American people. And we know it's deliberate because, as my colleagues have pointed out repeatedly, this statement was on the Department of Agriculture website just within the last few weeks. They know what congressional intent is. They know they've got the money, and they are choosing not to use it for this purpose. So this is a sadistic policy being imposed by Russ Vought and Donald Trump and Republicans, depriving 40 million Americans of food nutrition assistance to keep paying for their billionaire buddies' tax cuts. I looked up in Webster's the definition of sadism, and the definition is to delight in cruelty. That's really sick.
The biggest fight? Extending the Affordable Care Act. Health subsidies that are set to expire, which they warn would cause premiums to double or triple.
And let me be clear what it would mean if Republicans got their way and this so-called CR, continuing resolution, were to pass. First, it would throw 15 million Americans off the health care they have because of massive cuts to Medicaid and the ACA. And what studies from Yale and the University of Pennsylvania and elsewhere indicate that when you throw 15 million working class and low-income people off the health care they have, 50,000 of them will die unnecessarily every year. So what this legislation is about is whether we vote to allow 50,000 of our fellow Americans to die unnecessarily every year because they were thrown off of Medicaid and the ACA. Further, if the Republicans were to prevail, what it means is that on average, health insurance premiums for the 20 million plus people on the Affordable Care Act on average would double. In my state of Vermont, we have now received information there are some people who would pay a tripling or a quadrupling of their health care premiums when Americans are already paying the highest prices in the world for health care. People cannot afford a doubling or a tripling in their health care premiums.
In the latest video, Democratic lawmakers, led by Senator Bernie Sanders, took aim at House Republicans for their 6-week recess during the government shutdown, calling it a paid vacation at taxpayers' expense. This criticism has ignited passionate discussions about accountability and the urgent need for action. On the flip side, Republican leaders, including Speaker Mike Johnson, have defended their break, insisting that members are actively engaged in their districts serving constituents. They argue that the House will only reconvene for a full legislative session once the Senate passes a measure to end the shutdown, placing the blame on Senate Democrats for the impasse. Here's what they had to say.
But for the first time in modern history, the Republicans are not negotiating. What they are saying is their way or the highway. They refuse to sit down and talk. And further, in terms of their contempt for the negotiating process, Mike Johnson, the Republican leader in the House, has given his members a 6-week paid vacation. So here we are in the middle of a government shutdown. Workers are not getting paid. People are worried about escalating health care costs. People are being worried about being thrown off the health care they have. And the Republicans in the House are saying, hey, guys, take a 6-week paid vacation. You don't have to be here in Washington, D.C. To me, that is pretty insane.
If I brought the House back and we passed another CR, it would meet the exact same fate from Chuck Schumer. He would mock it, they would spike it, and they would try to blame it on us. So what would be the point of that?
So, where do you stand? Are the Republicans genuinely serving their constituents, or is this just a political tactic? And do Democrats have a point about the urgency for action? Share your thoughts and join the conversation. Your voice matters. Now switch to the Republican side, and everything you just heard is flipped. They call it the Democrat shutdown, not the Trump shutdown. Their entire position: the only way to stop the pain is for Democrats to pass the clean funding resolution that the House has already approved 15 times.
With each passing day, the pain gets more real, and the Democrats are guaranteeing when they vote to reject our clean funding resolution. We expect they will do that again today for the 15th time. They are showing no shame whatsoever in their actions. Now, just as we clearly know what is happening, which we've recounted here every morning, the American people can never forget. We also clearly know why it's happening.
They dismiss the SNAP emergency fund argument, claiming there is no legal mechanism to do it, and that Democrats are only demanding standalone funding to create political cover to continue their opposition. The ultimate blame, they argue, lies with Senate Democrats who are bowing to the demands of their far-left base and a radical socialist wing in New York.
So we'll take a few questions. Yes, sir. Second row.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. During the last shutdown in 2019, it was the first Trump administration, and they made sure that in the second month of the shutdown, SNAP benefits would go out. They had them sent early. Why do you think they shouldn't do that this time?
I mean, he's done everything he can. He's ordered all of his cabinet secretaries to mitigate the harm. So, for example, as you know, with WIC funding, they found a way to fund that with tariff revenue. We found a way to pay the troops once already in October, hopefully at the end of this month by moving money around. But it's very difficult to do. Those are not inexhaustible funds. When it comes to SNAP, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism to do it. The simplest way to end the pain and the simplest way to make this stop is for the Democrats to do the obvious and right thing and vote for the nonpartisan funding measure so that we can turn everything back on. Because by endorsing Mamdani, Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed and co-owned his positions, his past statements, his Marxist playbook, and everything else that that guy espouses. And so, too, does every single House Democrat who will be inviting their leader, Jeffries, to their campaigns and to their districts next year. Every single one of them at every campaign stop should be asked, what do you think about Mamdani? What do you think about his positions? While House Democrats court Marxists in New York, Senate Democrats have chosen to shut down the government over a totally clean, nonpartisan CR. It's the first time in history, in the history of this country, that any party has done that, has chosen, had the audacity to shut the government down over a totally clean, nonpartisan funding measure. They're bowing to the demands of their far-left base, and no one can deny that. The facts are very clear. The American people are intelligent. They understand what's happening here. We pray that the Democrats, at least a handful of centrists, if there are any moderates left in the Democrat Party in the Senate, we pray that they will come to their senses and they will do the right thing by the American people, that they will stop all the pain and that they will reopen the government. As I mentioned on Saturday, things are going to become very dire. There is one way out of this, the easy way, the obvious way, and that is for the Democrats to do their job and vote for the CR. And now, Chuck Schumer is desperately trying to cling to power. Unfortunately, when you make decisions out of fear and political desperation, you have already lost control. And the new power center in the Democrat Party is one that should frighten every common sense American. The radical socialist wing is rising. It is led by people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer know this. They're smart politicians in that way. They can feel the political winds, and they know that they have to continue to act belligerently in order to gain the favor of the far left. It's their own political survival that they have put in front of the needs of the entire country. Let me say that again. The Democrat leaders in the Senate and the House have put their own political survival in front of the needs of the American people.
So, here's the bottom line. The most vulnerable families in America have been trapped in the middle of a political staring contest. Democrats are demanding a deal that addresses Affordable Care Act subsidies and prevents Medicaid cuts before they will vote to open the government. Republicans are demanding Democrats pass a clean CR to reopen the government first, saying healthcare negotiations should be held separately. The result of this deadlock? 42 million people lose their food aid on November 1st.
In my grandfather's Democrat Party, these are communists and Marxists. They are kowtowing to the people like Kami Mamdani ahead of the election. People are struggling in the meantime to put food on the table, and the Democrats are too busy playing politics to do anything about it.
No one denies the severity of the crisis. No one denies the funds are needed. They only disagree on who is responsible and when the debate is allowed to end. As Republican Representative Lisa McClain of Michigan put it, Jim is not leverage. Jim is a person with a family to feed.
Jim is not leverage. Jim is a person with a family to feed. Open up the government and stop using Jim and his family as leverage to kowtow to your radical political base. Do what you know is right and what you have said is right, and open up the government.
This sentiment, highlighting the profound human cost, echoes across both sides of the aisle. Republicans are pointing to moderate Democratic senators, asking them what they'll tell the millions of people in their states who will go hungry if they don't change their vote. This is the cruel reality of the shutdown, a massive fight over who gets credit for caring about the people, while millions are left with nothing.